The first one is a classic arcade game called Congo Bongo. It was kind of their answer to Donkey Kong. Now, although in the arcade it's 3D, this one is 2D and resembles a little bit more like Donkey Kong than maybe they would even want. But it's still a fun game. You just gotta go up and, I mean, there's even an ape at the top. Kind of takes place in a jungle safari as far as the theme goes. But I was a huge fan of the arcade game, and this one actually plays really, really well. Again, it's not exactly the same as the arcade, but it's certainly inspired by it. It certainly gets the point across. Now we gotta talk about Go-Go 13, although the game itself is not very Go-Go 13. But it's still Go-Go 13 all the same, because you're hanging out of a car shooting the windows of a moving train that's frantically on a collision course or something. But you just gotta shoot out the windows so you can save your peeps. The problem is there's another train in front of you, so your bullets keep ricocheting. And you can't hit your own self with these ricocheting bullets from the train in front of you. So you got to shoot behind the train and get those windows blown out so you can save the people on this train. And that's what Go-Go 13 is all about. Again, not very Go-Go 13-like, but hey, if you're gonna add a tie into it, it may as well be Go-Go 13. I mean, he's shooting a gun, so yeah, why not? From the badass to the insanely cute, it's Girls Garden, and you gotta check out Girls Garden, because look at this. Look at this. It's adorable. So you got the flowers, you gotta avoid the animals, the bees, of course. You got these bears that are after you, but you can drop these honey pots, and that will make the bears, go for the honey instead of for your face, I suppose. And once you collect enough flowers, you can then go home. To your boyfriend, I'm guessing? Super cute, super adorable. I think it's really fun. What gets me about this game, though, is that your timer is your boyfriend slowly going after another girl. And if he makes it there in time to the other girl, then that's game over for you, and you cry about it. That is messed up, but the game is pretty fun. Girls Garden for your SEGA SG-1000. Now up next is Yamato. I thought this was a fun idea too. You play as this boat and you're shooting both, stuff out of the sky and stuff in the water. And you do that by having two targets, and you're both these targets move simultaneously when you push up and down, just at different speeds. So you have to keep an eye on both targets and the sky and the water, what you're shooting at and how you're going to shoot at it. I think it's a lot of fun, man. I mean, naturally, you're also kind of dodging their attacks as well while you're trying to shoot them out of the sky or into the water and all that. So check out Yamato. This game is highly addicting on this one. We got Borderline, and this one plays like a shooter, and has a couple of different gameplay modes here. This is an auto-scrolling, but you can, still aim left and right to shoot out these other things. Again, kind of cool that you play as a Jeep instead of like an airship or something like that. And then finally, like kind of this first stage boss, it turns into one of these kind of games where you have to shoot them and dodge their bullets and all that, and shoot out the reactor core, I suppose. And then onto future stages here. Borderline, here's a shooter for you. Now we have Champion Pro Wrestling, and this one plays pretty uniquely, but is still kind of fun. With one of your buttons, you choose which maneuver you want to do, and then your other button tries to execute that maneuver, whatever it may happen to be. And hopefully you can pull it off. I'm not doing too well in this round, but it's all good. Trying to do what we can anyway. I'm the dude without the mask in this gameplay footage. But I thought it was kind of fun that you're actively moving around, but then you select what you're about to do, and you push the button, and hopefully you do it. I mean, hopefully, right? Champion Pro Wrestler. Kind of funny to think that a game back in, 1985 can play better than a lot of the wrestling games we got for the NES and even Super Nintendo. Love the title on this one, Hustle Chummy. It's another game that plays exactly like it looks. You dodge the enemies, pick up the items. I mean, there are so many games that are like this, but I mean, this was the first time and only time I've ever heard of this game was on the SEGA SG-1000, so gotta show some love for, of all games, Hustle Chumley. Love the name of that. And if you like the name of that, you'll love the name of this. Here's Dragon Wang. Dragon Wang. Well, I mean, it plays like Kung Fu for the NES. You go through and you play the role of Dragon Wang, because you are, and you just go through and beat up the guys. Dragon Wang. If nothing else, by name alone, you gotta check out Dragon Wang. Another great title, Pop Flamer. This game's hard, man. I mean, for looking kind of cutesy and cartoony, pretty hard. You breathe fire. You gotta pop these balloons. That's what you do in Pop Flamer. I mean, kind of naming the title and everything, but there you go. Let's talk about Pac-Car. It's Pac-Man, but you're a car. I mean, what else can I say? It's Pac-Man, but you're a car. And, well, instead of having ghosts, I suppose there's one other driver. So avoid the driver, grab the things. It's Pac-Man, but you're a car. Now, if you're new to the Sega Master System, the first game you probably want to check out is Alex Kidd in Miracle World. Now, if there was ever a mascot for the Master System, it would probably be Alex Kidd. It's your closest to Mario-type game. However, this game has a lot more going for it than Super Mario Bros. Yes, you can both run and jump. Yeah, you can both break bricks. However, this game features upgrades. Like, you can actually purchase things along the way. Just love the vibrant colors that this game brings you. The fun character designs. This game has a lot going on for it. Like I said, Alex Kidd in Miracle World. If you're going to start with any game, I'd start with this one straight out of the gate. Now, if you're a fan of the Legend of Zelda series, you might want to check out Golvius. I've never actually said that word out loud, so I guess it's pronounced Golvius. Now, this game features a couple of things. There's a side-scrolling action here. Again, fun enemies, cool colors. You know, this game, the way that it's level designed and everything like that, actually kind of feels like an NES game, so I think you'll be at home with this one. Even features big old colorful bosses at the end of some of these stages. But it also features that Zelda-style overhead map idea. So very, very cool. If you're a Legend of Zelda fan, you might want to check out Golvius. But if you're talking about Legend of Zelda, why would I even mention Golvius when I should be talking about Golden Axe Warrior? You remember Golden Axe? Well, this is Golden Axe Warrior. Nothing like the original Golden Axe. This game is straight up Legend of Zelda. You got your health, you got your magic, you got your sword, you got your towns, you got your talking to people, you got your screen-to-screen with enemies appearing as you get into that screen. This is the closest you'll get to Legend of Zelda on the Sega Master System. It's Golden Axe Warrior. Good luck finding it, but if you're playing it by other means, all power to you. And not very Legend of Zelda-y, but I want to talk about Aztec Adventures as well, because it looks like it could be with that overworld style. I almost consider this one a little bit more like Magic of Scheherazade. I know Magic of Scheherazade is one of those hidden gem games, you know, but one of the fun ideas that this game featured that I've never seen before is you can actually have the enemies become your friend. You can throw money at them, and they'll fight alongside you. You gotta love that idea. Aztec Adventure is definitely worth checking out. Oh, you like Castlevania, you say? Well, then you gotta check out Master of Darkness. This game did not come out in America. This is a UK game. However, this game is about as Castlevania as you'll get on the Sega Master System, as you can see. These creepy floating heads, those are kind of like your candles. There's gonna be like power-ups and items inside those. I mean, it's hard to look at this game and have it think that it was never inspired by Castlevania. I'm sure it totally was, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is actually a really great game. Master of Darkness, check it out for your Sega Master System, please. In the Konami mode, thinking about Jackal, I was thinking about Line of Fire. Now, this game isn't actually very much like Jackal at all. However, you do play as this kind of armored vehicle shooting enemies. It's an auto-scroller, so it's no different than any vertical shoot-'em-up. But the fact that you're playing as a Jeep instead of playing as a airship or plane or something like that, I thought it had that unique idea. So I'm a big fan of this game, and you might want to check it out too. Line of Fire. You ever play that game Cabal for the NES? It was on the arcade as well. Well, Double Hawk is a lot like that. At first glance, you might think it might be a Contra-type game because of these characters. But no, it plays like this. You just shoot the people, that's your target. You gotta avoid them as well. Got more enemies coming out, more things happening. And when you finally get to where you need to go, you'll move on to the next stage. Great two-player game if you're looking for a fun two-player cooperative game. Double Hawk for your Sega Master System. King's Quest even came out for the Sega Master System. Now, I'm not a PC gamer, so the only King's Quest game I played was King's Quest V for the NES, but this gives you a chance to play the first one. Instead of this is supposed to be a point-and-click style, it's a little harder to do on a console, so you can just walk around, but then it gives you the option screen of what you want to do with where you are. That's kind of the understatement of the year. Uh-oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, whatever I did, it didn't do it right. Moving on. Action Fighter, this is going to be your Spy Hunter type game. Only instead of a car, you are a motorcycle. And you're trying to shoot out enemies, and again, instead of having lives, you just kind of have a timer. I like that, because I am terrible at this game. But this game is so Spy Hunter that it even features the truck that you can go behind and get your power-up items. Which lasted about 2 seconds for me. Good lord, I didn't even get a chance to use it. Alright, I'm going to practice this game some more, but you check out Action Fighter when you get a chance. One of the parts of the game Rescue the Embassy mission is you play the role of a gunman. And Dead Angle is just like that part. Now, there's an arcade game called Empire City 1931. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, this game is that, basically. You can see the silhouette of who you are, and you just gotta shoot them before they shoot you. Easy enough. Kind of side-scrolling and vertical scrolling, too, so make sure you get those guys up in the windows. Fun shooter here in the name of Dead Angle. Check it out. This game's actually pretty inexpensive to find, too. Dynamite Ducks is your kind of beat-em-up style, but kind of not. Super cartoony. I don't know what the Colonel's doing there either. I'm not going to question it. Maybe just move along. You beat up the people. You can pick up little items along the way, too, to help you out. Love the artwork. Love the cartooniness. I wish we would see more Dynamite Ducks. We should have a Dynamite Ducks... we should have had one for the Sega Genesis, even the Sega Saturn. But I think the only one we ever got, with the exception of maybe Game Gear, if there was one for that, is this one for the Sega Master System. And I loved it. And I love it when bosses are like this, too, like kind of cartoony style. Very fun to have a game like this. I guess you could kind of compare it to Turtles 2, the arcade game. I don't know. It's a fun game. Definitely check it out. If you're a fan of Kung Fu for the NES, you'll love Black Belt. It's pretty much the same kind of idea. And if you're wondering why the characters are disintegrating after you punch them or kick them, this game came out in Japan as one of those Fist of the North Star games. So, little graphic hack turns it into a Kung Fu game, but still a fun game. It's called Black Belt, which might feature the worst label art of any Sega Master System game of all time. It's a foot. Love it. Hold on, check this out. Oh man, one of the coolest cinematics I ever saw in a video game up to this point. This game is called Zillion for the Sega Master System. Keep in mind of what these codes are. You will need them later on when you're playing this game. I'm having kind of a hard time figuring out what NES game this could kind of be like. It's kind of like a 2D side-scrolling Metal Gear, if anything, kind of, but not really. So you go through and you shoot the enemies, right? I mean, so that part's not Metal Gear at all. But what happens is when you get to where you need to go, there's these little code things that you can type in. And remember those keys at the beginning of the game here. It'll, make it so certain things can be unlocked later on in the levels. I just think this is one of the coolest ideas of a game where you'd actually go through and actually use security codes to, unlock the security or do something else or whatever. Man, I just thought it was such a fun idea, and this game certainly keeps you playing longer because you want to see what's coming up next. If you get a Sega Master System, you definitely want to check out Zillion. There's also a Zillion 2, but I feel like the first one better. Now, this game is one of my favorite arcade games of all time. Came out for the Sega Master System called Quartet. Unfortunately, you can only play 2-player, which I don't know why it's just not called Duet. But in the arcade, it was Quartet. I digress. So this is your platform shooter. However, the colors in this game, the music in this game, everything about this game makes me love this game. And the fact that you had a jetpack as an option was one of the coolest ideas to me at the time. I was like, oh my god, I could just fly around, don't have to jump or anything. Well, you don't get the jetpack in every level, but it certainly comes in handy when you do. You make your way through the stage, you find the exit, but you have to find the boss that has the key. Defeat the boss, get the key, you can move on. And some stages even feature the exit near the beginning of the level, but you still have to look for the boss to find the key and all that. So you want to check out Quartet. Another one of my must-own games for the Sega Master System. You gotta have Quartet, buddy. Let me talk about Danon the Jungle Fighter. This one kind of reminds me of Rambo for the NES. And although Rambo for the NES was kind of simplistic for its time, I thought it was a great game. As you can tell by looking, action platform style, you can use the items to defeat the enemies and explore. You can move on, or you can go down the ladder and see where else you need to go. Maybe something is locked and you gotta come back to it later. I love that open world exploration style, and this game, Danon, is gonna give you that. So if you liked Rambo for the NES, you'll like this one. No doubt you've heard of Outrun. Well, this is Battle Outrun. Think kind of like Chase HQ and a little bit like Knight Rider for the NES. What you do is you go to, it's a driving game. It's like Outrun, kind of. You can even go on the back of these trucks to upgrade your car if you can. And as you keep driving, eventually you're going to find basically the enemy of the level. You have to try to run him off the road or bash into him until he can't drive anymore. And that's what Battle Outrun is all about. And I failed this level. That's alright. Moving on. We got Cyborg Hunter. Cyborg Hunter is interesting enough. Anyone else think she was kind of cute? Alright. Now there's going to be a bunch of games like this, where you're just running back and forth, and you take the elevators up and down, and you defeat the enemies that come about. But I love that little sensor up in the corner that lets you know that there's an enemy coming up. And when that enemy's there, then you can defeat him and move on, or you can keep walking past him if you want. But I like the fact that sensor was going to let you know that there's an enemy on the way, and to be prepared for it. You gotta love that. This is called Cyborg Hunter. You can check it out for yourself. The very first game I want to talk about is probably my favorite game for the Sega Genesis, and that's Haunting, starring Poltergeist. And especially this day and age, you may have skipped over this title because it's from EA, but trust me, this is back when EA was like awesome. So in this game, you play a specter, I suppose, a ghost, if you will, and you're trying to scare this family out of their house. It's their mom, the dad, and the bratty brother and sister. You do so by inhabiting items throughout the house. Whatever room they're in, you're trying to scare them enough so they leave the room. And you do that basically by possessing these items. You can just jump into them, you jump back out, and they will work their magic. Sometimes they do it automatically, and sometimes you have control over what's going on with that item that you're possessed, or possessing. You just really just keep on jumping into everything, and by doing so, it uses up your ectoplasm. Now when you scare them enough that they run out of the room, they leave more ectoplasm for you so you can refill your meter. With any luck, you'll actually scare them enough to leave the house, and along the way, if you do run out of ectoplasm, which will happen, then you'll go back to, like, the netherworld, if you will, the underworld. And this will give you a chance to refill your ectoplasm. And there's also enemies in here. Now, this is the area that you will actually lose lives. But simple enough, you just go through, collect what you will, and you're back in the house scaring this family some more. It's so fun, it's so creative, it's fun to see what you can possess and what happens to that item when they do. Huge fan of this game. It's called Haunting, starring Poltergeist, and it's available for your Sega Genesis or Sega Mega Drive. Because it's the 90s, we have Skitchin', which is all about rollerblading. It's a little like Road Rash, a little like that ESPN Extreme Downhill Challenge or whatever that was for the PlayStation 1. But in this race, the Skitchin' part of it, to get to the front of the line, is you can actually grab onto the back of these vehicles, and they will pull you along to get the upper hand here. Now, other than that, you just kind of gotta punch your way to a victory here. But the fun of this game was you were skating along, you can grab onto the back of cars and stuff like that. I thought that was so fun. And this is still a fun game to play today, too. If you're looking for a game with Tude, you gotta check out Skitchin'. Hey, maybe your attitude is all about saving the Earth, and that's fine. We have Awesome Possum just for you. This is Awesome Possum Kick Dr. Machino's Butt, is the actual name of this game. And it's kind of like your Sonic, kind of like your Bubsy. Oh my god, I'm gonna compare it to Bubsy. But it has an environmental theme to it. So you take Bubsy and you take Fern Gully, and then you have Awesome Possum. Again, this was back during a time when games had to have that mascot type character, and hey, if this guy's saving the Earth, you can't fault that, right? The enemies in this game are going to be anti-Earth. You see that guys with chainsaws and whatnot. So, fun little platformer, cutie, cartoony platformer. However, it has a great message behind it. And in between levels, you have to take a test. What? Well, that's kind of weird. It's not going to fault you one way or another. Well, I lost this one. But yeah, check out Awesome Possum if you would. The most Legend of Zelda-y game for the Sega Genesis is going to be Crusader of Sinti. It's also getting up there to be like the most valuable game too. And again, if you love the Legend of Zelda series, this is the one that you want to play for sure. Great color, fun music, excellent animation, especially for Sega Genesis. The exploration from town to where you're going to fight and everything, that's just, you know, your kind of Mario-style map to get to where you're going. But once you're there, it's all action. You got your sword, you got your shield, you got your enemies you're killing. I don't need to show you a whole lot more of this game to let you know, hey, if you're into Legend of Zelda, Crusader of Sinti is where it's at. Up next is a fun one called El Viento. This game screams Sega Genesis to me. It's a game that looks like this. How about that? Run and gun style, but at the time I loved the larger character sprites. Again, the graphics were super cool to me at the time. Still a fun game today too, if you're into like the Valis style games or stuff like that, you know. This is worth checking out. Not going to spoil too much of it for you, but as you can tell just by looking at it, it plays and feels how it looks, and I think the controls are pretty spot on too. So check out El Viento if you would. Up next is a game called Exile. Now, if you have a TurboGrafx 16 CD or a Turbo Duo, you're going to get a better experience playing Exile on that system. However, the one for the Sega Genesis is very excellent. I was drawn to it because a lot of these type of games take place in a forest or a magical land. This takes place in the desert for the most part. Well, it starts you out in the desert anyway. It starts out kind of RPG-ish, as you can tell. You're walking around and talking to people and making people join your party, and you know, so you kind of have, you think you have a feel for where this game's going to go as far as what the how the action plays out. But then the battle system itself is a side-scrolling action game. You're hacking people with your sword, you got your shield, you can use magic later on. I mean, even like how this looks, it reminds me of Ys 3. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love the Ys series. So, kind of like if you like the RPG element, but you're just like, oh man, but I don't want to do the turn-based action, whatever. I just want to go in there and kick some butt yourself. Exile is the way to go. It's one game in my backlog I've been meaning to play all over again. I just haven't got around to it yet. Well, we haven't talked about a shoot 'em up yet, and this is the first on this list. This is Biohazard Battle. I like it because you're playing as like a giant beetle. But beetles aside, it plays as a fantastic horizontal shooter. Quick moving, action-packed, love the graphics in this one, a lot of moving elements on screen, and from what I tell, no slowdown. Plenty of power-ups along the way too, so whatever fits you best. If you like the homing missiles, you like the bigger shots, the more powerful weapons, you choose how you want to play this game yourself. I also kind of liked, especially for its time, that even after you beat the level, you're still kind of moving along, and then the next level just starts right up. So now all of a sudden you're somewhere else too. Biohazard Battle up there in my list of favorite shoot 'em up games for the Sega Genesis. From creepy to cute, we have Flicky, early release game. It's a kid's game. It looks like a kid's game, arcade style. Reminds me a little bit of Mappy. However, this game, for some reason to me, is oddly addicting. You just move up the platforms as you can, collect all the chicks, move through the exit, move on to the next level. Of course, the cats are going to be in your way, and there's some weapons around there. Even if the cat doesn't touch you, if it touches the chicks, then they stop following you, so you gotta be cognizant of that. Again, I can't explain it. I look at this game, even when I first saw it for rent, and I was just like, I'm not gonna play that game. And then I finally did, for some reason. I was like, oh man, I actually like it quite a bit. Never judge a book by its cover. Flicky, check it out. Alright, when you want to get your machismo back after playing a game like that, you gotta check out Dynamite Duke. Dynamite Duke was one of the first games I owned for the Sega Genesis, and fortunately, it's an awesome game too. It plays a little bit like, I don't know, maybe if you played Wild Guns for the Super Nintendo, or maybe if you even just played Operation Wolf, it's kind of like that. It's an on-rail shooter by nature. You just move it along, you gotta shoot the guys, you gotta move out of their way. I like the fact that your chest centerpiece, you can see through you, so in case there's like an enemy in front of you and you don't see them, you can actually see them through you. So this first part, you just kind of scroll along, shoot the enemies, you get your power-ups along the way. Of course, you got the big tanks you can shoot too. The fun part comes from the bosses because they come up close to you, and then your other buttons that aren't fire are your punch and kick buttons. So it turns into a little Mike Tyson's Punch-Out to throw it in there too. Well, kind of, but not necessarily really. I don't know. I think Dynamite Duke's a fun one. You can check it out if you'd like. Up next is a game called Granada. This is definitely one I'd love to see everyone check out. Now, they have vertical shooters, they have horizontal shooters. This is an all-over shooter. In fact, this game reminds me a lot of, believe it or not, although this is in tanks and explosions and everything, reminds me a lot of Gauntlet. You just move around trying to fight all the enemies, you find their bases and you gotta blow those up too, like Gauntlet. You do have a map in your corner. That's gonna help you out to find out where all the enemy bases are so you know where to go and where to blow these things up. Obstacles in the way, always. And when you blow up all the enemy bases, that's when the boss comes out and you gotta defeat the boss too. This boss here is just the first stage boss here, but, big, bulky, gotta come up with a quick strategy to defeat this guy. The game's called Granada, first stage on ground, the second stage in the air on the back of a plane. You get too close, you'll fall off. Love this game, you gotta check it out. Sega Genesis, make it happen. Kind of an earlier Genesis title called Mystic Defender. I wanted to show this off just really quickly here. See, before Sonic the Hedgehog, a lot of the popular games for the Genesis were games that played a lot more like Shinobi, and this one's a lot like Shinobi. Not really much I can tell you outside of, it's just you move and shoot guys and defeat the enemies and, and move on from there. Mystic Defender is a staple Genesis title. And not to be outdone, here's Elemental Master, but completely different game. In fact, this game plays more like a vertical shooter. Only you shoot in front of you, and you can shoot behind you, but instead of being a ship, you're some dude. Kind of fun too, because when this game came out, you're so just used to going like level 1, level 2, level 3. This one lets you choose which level you'd like to do first. Elemental Master is definitely a fun one. You can definitely check it out for yourself. Okay, so I'm actually going to put Beauty and the Beast on this list. There's two Beauty and the Beast games. One of them, you play as the Beast in a savage, ravage type of game. I'm going to include Belle's Quest in this one. I don't know why I was drawn to this title. It was just a fun for the sake of fun cute, easygoing, relaxing game. Beautiful colors, excellent sound. This one's definitely an easier title for the Sega Genesis. Now, Nintendo did great things with Capcom, and so did Sega. You shouldn't deny those. I don't know, I kind of liked hiding from LeFou. That was a fun deal. This game's a little fetch questy, where they're like, oh man, I wish I had water in the fountain, and you have to go find out why there's not water in the fountain, fix that problem, go back and talk to someone else here. There's little missions like putting the books on the shelf in a way, which is just collecting them as they fall. But if you're just looking for a simple, relaxing game, you can check out Beauty and the Beast Belle's Quest. I gotta admit, I like it. Now naturally, you're not gonna see Mario Paint on the Sega Genesis. However, you will see Art Alive, and that was kind of their answer to Mario Paint. This game isn't nearly as in-depth as Mario Paint, but I still played it for I don't know what reason, but I wanted to show it off just for a little bit here. Now, obviously I'm using a controller because I can't really do circles or anything like that. It has a couple of features here, and then it even has these animation features. That is a beautiful, beautiful work of art, if I do say so myself. I worked on it all 30 seconds. Yeah, it's Art Alive, alright. Now, Cybercop, believe it or not, is a first-person maze shooter, kind of like a Faceball 2000, maybe a little bit Doomish, a little bit Wolfenstein-ish, but not really. Yeah, when I say first-person shooter, I mean, this is running on a Sega Genesis. And if you were from the time, this was super impressive. It kind of reminds me of those, like, here's what VR can look like, back in, like, the, 90s. It probably was, But in this game, I'm sure you play as a Cybercop, and you just gotta find and hunt down the other enemies. But seeing this game on a Sega Genesis blew my mind when I first saw it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I look at it now and I still have an appreciation for what it can do compared to other Sega Genesis games I've played, Now, is the game great? I mean, it's not terrible, but it's just cool to see that they had something like this for the Sega Genesis. So I wanted to give it a shout out for sure. Cybercop, check it out.